Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of my wedding planning series. In last week's video, we talked about how intimidating it can be for a couple to put together their wedding day timeline. Now, as the wedding planner, I usually will work with the couple to put together a wedding day timeline that works for everyone. In this video, I will be sharing with you a step-by-step guide on how to put together your own wedding timeline for a late afternoon wedding with specific timings. Now, for my type A personalities out there, please, reminder, disclaimer, a wedding day timeline is simply a guide for the sequence of events that's gonna happen on your wedding day. I have been planning weddings long enough to know that most weddings, including yours, may be running a little behind time or ahead of time, and that is perfectly okay. Now, with all of that said, I will recommend that you delegate someone who is really organized to take care of and keep an eye on your wedding day timeline. I don't expect that you, as the bride or the groom, will be watching the clock and failing to have fun like you should. Hire a wedding planner if you can, and if you can't, hire at least a month of coordinator to take care of all of that for you. Okay, let's dive into today's timeline. You ready? I'm ready. So this wedding timeline assumes that your wedding invitation says 3:30. You're expecting about 250 guests, and both your ceremony and the reception are taking place in the same venue. As an example, let's say that you're having your wedding in a 5-star hotel where there's a garden ceremony and then a sit-down meal afterwards. It also assumes that both you and your bridal team are getting ready at the same venue, and assumes that all of the event logistics have already been delivered to the site ahead of time. In which case, your event designer and her team will be expected to arrive about 7 a.m. in the morning. Hair and makeup, I usually will schedule about 5 to 6 hours ahead of the event start time. It could be 7 or 10 hours depending on your vendors and what their capacity is. So hair and makeup, let's say, come in at 10 a.m. in the morning. Between 12 and 2 p.m., I expect that your reception vendor should be arriving and setting up. At 2 p.m., you should be all dressed and ready for your behind-the-scenes photo shoot, as well as your groom and his men on the other side of the venue. If you're scheduling a first look, then you want to schedule this a couple of hours ahead of your event start time. At 3 p.m., I expect that your ceremony should be all set up for guests to start to arrive and be seated. Cue pre-ceremony music at this time. At 3:45, your groom and your best man should be seated, so you want to cue the rest of the bridal team at this time. Between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m., there is the exchange of vows, the ceremony, and whatever the pastor tells you, just listen. Whatever they say happens between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. happens. From 5 p.m. to 6:15, you should be scheduling your photographs and cocktail hour. At 6:15, start to usher guests into your ballroom, ready for the bridal team to arrive. From this point, what you choose to do and when is entirely up to you. You can fit in a lot more of your highlights before dinner or do so after dinner. And this usually will depend on the guest demographics and how many canapes have been served during your cocktail hour. If your guests have had a lot to eat during cocktail hour, you may want to delay dinner and vice versa. Between 6:30 and 10 p.m., you have all of the highlights that come during the reception. So in no particular order, you'll be cutting your cake, you'll be having your first dance, you'll be dancing with the parents, you'll be having the toast. Please limit the number of people who actually toast to no more than 5 and give them no more than 2 minutes each to talk. It can't get you don't want your guests to be sitting while the toast drag. So limit that. You have your bouquet toss, you have dinner, you have desserts, and you have a lot of dancing. When it comes to the dancing part and scheduling all of these highlights, please be mindful that your DJ has worked very hard to put everyone on the dance floor. So give them about an hour or so on the dance floor before you cut them and slot something else in. So as an example, perhaps just put all of those highlights ahead and give your guests a lot of time to party and have a great time. When you're coming in as the bridal team, or perhaps the two of you on your own, please remember that the bridal entrance really sets the tone for the reception. So remember to have a blast. At 10 p.m., guests depart, and at 11 p.m., teardown begins. And then 12 midnight, my goodness, we're still here. 12 midnight or maybe 2 a.m., we get to leave, all of the staff. Remember that this timeline is not a full breakdown of what actually happens on your wedding day and does not include all of the behind the scenes running around to ensure there's a seamless flow of events. My recommendation, please hire at least a month of coordinator to keep an eye on the clock so that you can have a great time. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also hit the notifications bell so that you receive an alert whenever there's a new video. I look forward to seeing you again, same time next week. Bye-bye.